Hey guys, welcome back to Gaming for Immersion. My name is Michael, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who has been waiting around for CA to do a rework of the Lizardmen. I like the Lizardmen, I just don't find myself playing them very often because to me they still feel a little bit meh compared to some of the really interesting mechanics that so many of the other races have. So, like I said, been waiting for a rework. Well, let me combine that comment with another one, which is, if anybody remembers back in Warhammer 2, there was a modder named Grey Tiger who I felt like made some pretty interesting mods that added some interesting mechanics. I used one of them quite extensively for a little while. I think it was a Skaven one, but actually it's been so long now that I don't remember for sure. But anyway, I remember him having some really interesting ideas on how to add some additional mechanics to the factions and in a very thematic way. Well, anyway, so combining that comment with the previous one that the Lizardmen are in need of a rework, well, I'm very happy to say that he has done that. And after having tested this out for the last couple of days, used it, quite extensively here in a campaign, I'm pretty happy to say that this feels like, practically its own full rework for the race. So I'm going to get into a lot of the specifics of it. I'm going to show as much of it as I think I can in one brief video. But a couple of points that I want to start out with here right away before we jump into some of the details. Number one, it is basically a lot of buffs to the faction. It kind of starts out slow and it builds up a little bit, but ultimately you're going to find that there's really no negatives to it for the Lizardmen. It really only adds additional power to them. And so for that reason, for people who are, who already think the game is too easy, maybe you want to play on a higher difficulty setting, maybe you may not be interested in the mod at all, just because, like I said, it does give you a little bit of an additional power boost. I don't feel like it's overpowered, and like I said, it does start out pretty minor and it kind of builds up after a little while, which you'll see in just a minute, but I wanted to throw that out there to begin with. Second of all, it's still listed as beta. Now, I will say I haven't run into any bugs in the mod. In fact, the only thing that I can even mention so far that I've seen, and I've played it fairly thoroughly here for the last couple of days, the only thing that I've seen is that the author unfortunately misspells or actually uses the wrong grammar for the word "it's" everywhere that he has it in all of his different dialogue boxes that pop up. But that's okay. That's obviously extremely minor. It's only because I'm a writer that jumps out at me. But anyway, so let's get into the description of the mod, and then I'm going to show a lot of examples in game. So Eternal Dynasties is a mod which is intended to add some flavor for those races and factions that are missing any interesting and unique mechanics. This initial release of the mod revolves around the Lizardmen, giving them 2 new mechanics for their campaign. Hunt for the Medallion. Firstly, there is the hunt for the mystical Medallion of Chaqua. There are 16 fragments which are spread across the Warhammer world which you need to recover to restore the Medallion to its full potential and unlock its power. The Medallion is made up of 2 regions. The inner core consists of fragments which can be found in the provinces around your faction's starting region, while the fragments from the outer core lay in far-off lands, and you will need to figure out how to travel to them. Lord Mazdamundi, Garrock, Tehinowen, Tic-Tac-Toe, Krokgar, and Nakai all use the Medallion mechanic. Oxyotl does not hunt for the Medallion since he has a mechanic of his own, which grants him the ability to teleport across the world, and having the 2 felt like too much. I think that makes perfect sense. Anyway, the other mechanic, Ancient Spawning Pools. The second mechanic introduced is the Ancient Spawning Pools, where both the player and AI factions are seeking to control the spawn pools to receive primeval spawns from them. Each pool spawns a specific set of units, which receive bonuses based on the spawning tablets placed into the pool. The number of units spawned and the number of bonuses received increases as the pools level up. The AI will take any spawning tablets they gain and socket them into their favorite pool or into a pool where they have the best chance of gaining control. Quite often, they are quick to seize the pools for themselves, and once a tablet has been socketed in a pool, it cannot be removed. However, if you can generate enough astromantic energy, which is gained from some buildings and fragments of the medallion, then you can cause an astromantic disturbance, giving you the opportunity to take control of a rival faction's tablet and perhaps the spawning pool as a whole. And then he lists here a few sub-mods. I did not use any of those, so I can't really speak to any of those, but obviously that does kind of jump right out there that they have the SFO sub-mod. So really good job here by the author. I should have emphasized this at the very beginning, but all credit in the world goes to Grey Tiger. This is definitely a mod that I recommend. Definitely a mod I think a lot of you are going to like, and I really want to thank him for the mod and encourage everybody to show their appreciation to him for it. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the campaign and talk about exactly how this plays out. So here at the start, you're going to be met with this nice little pop-up that talks all about the, it's sort of a tutorial almost for how to use these two new mechanics for the mod. I'm not going to read through all of it here. It's basically the same thing that is written into the mod description, maybe a little bit more detail here in game, but in any case, it actually kind of didn't all register for me. It seemed a little bit complex at first when I just read about it, but once I started using it, it became really, really obvious how it all works, and so, like I said, I will get into all of that. Alrighty, so for this particular campaign, I decided to play as a Mazdamundi campaign. It's been a heck of a long time since I've tried him, so why not? Now, the first thing you'll notice are all these fancy little displays up here at the top. These are all new, and I will go into more detail in each of them as they become relevant to the campaign, so it'll make a little bit more sense. But as you can see, you've got one here for the Medallion of Chaqua, and in it you can hover over all the different fragments that can get added to this thing, and you can kind of see right up front what the different buffs that they provide are. And then you've got the ancient spawning pools over here, and this shows you what different units can be spawned by each of the different pools. And again, I'll show examples of all that. You do have this map here that you can click on that shows you the location of all of the different fragments that you know about. And as you expand and capture more fragments, it will show you more of the fragment locations. So here we are with our first medallion fragment added here on turn number 2. It's because you actually start with the settlement that has that first one, and it gives you a nice little buff here to your casualty replenishment rate. When you take a look at the ancient spawning pools display, it shows you the different units that you will get once the pools spawn, and it also allows you then to select which fragments you want to add, which will then provide like unit buffs to those units as they spawn. And here I'm just going ahead and selecting which tablets I own already to go ahead and add them to this particular pool. I did not realize that you were going to get tablets as often as you do. In my playthrough, it feels like you kind of get them after every single battle that you fight. So now in turn 5, our spawning pool got activated. That's because there were 7 tablets inserted into this particular spawning pool. So at that point, it'll be a 15 turn timer, and it will produce the particular units for the spawning pool after those 15 turns run out. And like I said, the buffs that those units get are going to be based on whichever tablets got activated for that pool. And keep in mind that there are a bunch of different ancient spawning pools. We currently only own the spawn of the sun, but there are other ancient spawning pools all around the Lizardmen territory all throughout Lustria. Periodically, you will see messages like this: Medallion of Chaqua, loyal in defeat. In this case, it was Tlaxlan. Whenever a Lizardman faction gets destroyed, you will see one of those messages pops up. It just means that they give their tablets over to whoever their closest ally was. Never has it been me, so I never got any of them. And here we go, a short while later, turn number 7, I get my second fragment of Chaqua. We get this by conquering Shrine of Sotek. And if we take a look here at our Medallion of Chaqua, we can see the second fragment has been added. It's kind of been highlighted here, so we can see that we're now getting melee defense for our Temple Guard, for example. I'm not going to go through all the different buffs that all these different fragments provide. I think part of the fun will be to figure those out for yourself. Okay, and here we go. Turn 20, our first spawning cycle completed. So there we have it. We now have access to a couple of primeval spawns that we can recruit the same way that you can recruit your blessed spawnings for the lizardmen. If we take a look here, you can see right beside blessed spawnings is the primeval spawns, and you can see you now have access to those units which just got spawned in our ancient spawning pool. You can buy them for free, and I will show an example here in a minute of where you can actually recruit them from March Dance. They come into your army instantaneously, and for that matter, you can recruit them in enemy territory as well, which I believe is the same thing that you can do for the blessed spawnings. So here is that example. We're in March Stance, and as I just mentioned, yeah, you can go ahead and recruit them in, even though we're standing in enemy territory and in March Stance. Now, over time, you will develop something called astromantic power. And every once in a while, you will get an event that also gives you either a boost or a big negative to your astromantic power. Anyway, once this gets above a certain number, it allows you to steal one of the tablets from one of the other factions. I'm not sophisticated enough with the mechanic to really know whether it made more sense for me to steal one of the ones that Itza has here in my own Spawn of the Sun, or if it would have made sense for me to steal one of the tablets from one of the other spawning pools. I just decided to go ahead and pull it out of my own spawning pool. Moving ahead a little bit further here, this is after I got my third fragment, and what we ended up getting was this event message saying Tzeentch incursion, excuse me. It gave me a 3-turn warning. So 3 turns from now, Tzeentch will spawn in with an army and try to take the medallion back from me. So as you can see, oh, I'm sorry, it was my 4th piece. Sorry, got a little bit ahead of myself there. So yeah, after my 4th piece is when this Tzeentch army spawned. So here we are a few turns later, and that Tzeentch army spawned right over here. I was prepared for it. Not really that big of a deal. Not the sort of army that was going to scare me. I had no idea what to expect, but once it spawned, I realized, okay, this is certainly something that is not really all that difficult to handle, but it is just something that you're going to probably want to keep some army close to your home territory to be able to deal with. In my case, I conveniently had an army of dinosaurs down here, which should easily be able to take care of it. And in fact, they did roll it straight into my ambush here, and fairly easily was able to take care of them. Fun little battle where I sent a whole bunch of dinosaurs straight into their blue and pink horrors here. With an ambush battle, they didn't really stand a chance. Most of them tried to run away, and most of them did not make it. So here's an example of an event that popped up that actually drained my astromantic power. So I got one event which bumped it up, and then another one a few turns later, which knocked it back all the way down to 0. Not really that big of a deal. I honestly haven't really gotten deep enough into the experience to really know how big of a deal it is to be stealing a fragment, a tablet from a different faction. The buffs that are provided for the units that are spawning are nice, and I guess having more of these tablets allows you a little bit more flexibility in how you want to handle it, but for the most part, it wasn't something that felt like it was something I needed to pay a whole lot of attention to. And so that's a taste of the mechanics that this mod adds. I will say I was going to keep playing until I could show you the teleportation mechanic. So once you fill up all of the fragments on the interior, the inside core of the medallion, that then will show you the locations of the pieces that belong on the outer part of the medallion, and you can teleport to those locations. Having said that, I was now getting into the part of the campaign where it kind of gets bogged down. I realized it was going to take me a while to fight through my wars with the Skull Taker and a few others down here to recover the rest of the inner core. So, and I'm assuming that as well polished as everything else feels in this mod, that part I'm going to trust is going to work okay. So in any case, you can kind of already see what this mod does. It's really nice. It does give you a boost to your power. Number one, it gives you all these buffs that you gain simply by recovering fragments of the medallion. So it does kind of, steer you in particular directions in terms of what territory you want to expand into, which enemies you want to fight against, although obviously you don't have to. And then the second big mechanic is really very much like the kind of thematically more of the same that the Lizardmen already do with their blessed spawnings. This is giving you additional units, in this case primeval units, which are very, very strong units indeed. And you can get them really, 15 turns before the first spawning occurs, which started not too long after the game began for me. So you can get them pretty early in the campaign and get some really nice additional units this way. So anyway, yeah, just access to more better units and access to some stronger buffs to really boost your playthrough as the Lizardmen. I think I'll go ahead and leave it with that. At that, I hope that this is helpful for anybody who is considering this sort of a thing. I think for people who particularly enjoy playing as the Lizardmen, if you like dinosaurs, for example, you're going to get access to a little bit more of them and a little bit extra buffed versions of them on top of that. So anyway, lot to like with this one. My only real hesitation with it is simply that you will feel a little bit more powerful than you do in vanilla, and not everybody may necessarily like that. So as you all know, I think there's lots of other ways that we can add challenge to the game, and I'm not going to get into all of that here. So anyway, let me know if you have any experience with this particular mod. Let me know if you have any questions or other thoughts about it, and yeah, we can certainly have a little discussion here in the comments section. Again, one more time, huge shout out to the mod author for creating this mod. Very impressed with it so far. I look forward to any further sort of homemade reworks to any other factions that he might be interested in doing. And it's very good to see him back being active again in Warhammer 3 like he was in Warhammer 2. So with all that, I'll go ahead and leave it there. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I will see you all in the next video.